Jordan Sekulow, who's been working with President Trump's legal team. He's the executive director of the American Center for Law and Justice. He's also a member, again, as I said, of President Trump's legal team. Jordan, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
And again, I know you appreciate this. Sean was good enough to highlight this, but what we are witnessing here is history. This has never happened before. Like so many other things, and we're in 2021 now, but it does feel like 2020 is carried over here into 2021. But just give me your quick reaction to watching this whole entire thing play out. We now have had the House and the Senate going into separate chambers to debate what's going on. We listened to Steve Scalise just a few moments ago. What's your reaction to all this?
This is, I think, very important for the American people. It's an uphill battle when it comes down to the votes. Obviously, the Democrats control the House, and to actually to move forward on these objections, you'd have to have a majority of votes in the House. But the debate is also important for the American people to hear, and for both sides on these specific states with specific allegations made by elected officials, members of Congress, some well-known like Steve Scalise, U.S. senators as well, to have ignored this debate and ignored this problem, I think would have we would continue the cycle of even what we saw last night in Georgia, which was still that sense from some people, unfortunately, I think on the Republican side, who thought, you know, it's just not worth voting because everything is rigged against me, and this is a process my vote won't count. And so I think even though this is an uphill battle to actually get done what is the goal here, the debate itself is extremely important, and I'm glad that there were, you know, at least these 13 U.S. senators who have agreed for the first time to join House members, and we're already seeing, you know, the first state come up, Arizona, and you know, they're going in order. I think we're going to see somewhere between 3 at the minimum, 6 at the max, probably. They may want some more in the House, but again, the debate will be had. And then we do have this new, I don't know if you've covered it yet, statement from the vice president.
Yes, we talked about that, and that was my next question. You know, he says, and I'll quote him here, "It is considered my judgment that my oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming the unilateral authority, you know, to overturn the election here." And so at this stage of the game, considering we have this statement from Pence.
This statement's interesting to me, John. Because everyone, I think, pretty much agrees with that. The vice president, we don't want the vice president to be able to just throw out electors.
Right. And so at this point,
the vice president did not address in that letter whether he believes he has the ability, if the objections that are made as president of the Senate in his constitutional duty, and he's got a letter from the president of the Senate in Pennsylvania saying, please let us look at this again. Could he, acting on his own, and I think there's a constitutional argument that can be made that he could, ask those states where the objections were made to just take a look again and recertify. It's not asking a lot of them. It's not telling them that they have to put in different electors, and they can do it very quickly, and so it could end up the elections the same way. He didn't specifically address that in this letter, but to me now I'd be a bit more surprised if he goes that route after reading the 2-page letter. Now, the president's been very strong on asking the vice president to take that action. He didn't address it specifically, but we probably won't know about that until all of the objections have been made by the House and Senate members.
All right, I got a question related to that, Jordan. We'll get back to you real quickly. I just want to listen in to Jim Jordan, who's speaking now on the House floor.
Policy opens an investigation on the president based on nothing. May 17th, 2017, Bob Mueller named special counsel. 2 years, they investigate the Russia hoax, 19 lawyers, 40 agents, and $40 million of taxpayer money for nothing. December 18th, 2019, Democrat House members vote to impeach President Trump based on an anonymous whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge, who was biased against the president and who worked for Joe Biden. But none of that worked. As hard as they tried, none of that worked. They threw everything they had at him. So what'd they do next? They changed the rules. They changed the election law, and they did it in an unconstitutional fashion. And that's what we're going to show over the next several hours of debate. The Constitution is clear, as Whip Scalise just said. State legislatures, and only state legislatures, set election law. In Arizona, The law says voter registration ends on October 5th. Democrats said, we don't care what the law says. They went to a court, got an Obama-appointed judge to extend it 18 days. No debate, as Steve talked about. No debate, no discussion, you just did it. Pennsylvania, same thing. Pennsylvania law says mail-in ballots have to be in by 8 p.m. Election Day. Democrat Supreme Court said, nope, we're going to extend it. Election Day doesn't end on Tuesday now. They took it to Friday. Extended the election 3 days, not the legislature, partisan Supreme Court. Pennsylvania law says mail-in ballots require signature verification. Democrat Secretary of State said, nope, I'm going to decide by myself that it doesn't, for 2.6 million ballots. Pennsylvania law says mail-in ballots can't be processed until Election Day. Some counties said no. And you can imagine which counties they were. Democrat-run counties said no and allowed ballots to be cured and fixed before Election Day. They did an in-run around the Constitution in every state that Republicans will object to today, every single one. It was a pattern.
All right, so we've been listening to Jim Jordan. Also, to give you an update, if you were listening to us, watching us a little bit earlier, we had Emerald Robinson joining us from the Capitol. I believe she was in the Cannon Rotunda, the office building there, next adjacent to where this proceeding is happening. And they had some sort of bomb scare. There's also reports of people storming the Capitol. So, Jordan, we'll get some more information on that. But where I wanted to go with you next is, considering what we've learned from Mike Pence in his statement, it seems unlikely that he's going to overturn the election, for lack of a better term here. At this point, what is the best outcome that all of President Trump's supporters can hope for when it comes to what we're seeing take place today?
So I never thought that the vice president would overturn and actually say he thought he had the power to disregard actual electoral votes. And he made that clear. He didn't address specifically, I'll say it again, in that letter, whether or not he could, acting on his own as president of the Senate, because these objections have been raised and it's serious, even if there's not enough votes in the House or the Senate to do it, could he alone just go to the states where the objections have been made and say, will you just recertify? We're asking you to recertify so that everyone's confident in the election. I think he could still do that at the end of the day today, but I feel like by putting out that letter, it's a little bit, because he didn't address that. So I don't want to put him in a box and say he's definitely not going to do that, or that he definitely is going to. I think he's left the door open, and he might just kind of see how this is going to play out. I mean, we're only on the first state, and alphabetically, and how many senators join and where the votes go and the discussions, and then kind of make the call then. But I think he did put to rest this idea that was floating around that he could somehow on his own, which would be very dangerous precedent set, decide what electors were good and which were bad, just based on his opinion. And even President Trump said what he's asked the vice president to do is to for those states that the objections are made, to ask them to recertify. And of course, they could all come back and recertify, and we could have the same electoral vote. They could come back and change their electors. Pennsylvania says they really want to look at it again. They think there were problems. Now, I want to say this. Every one of these state legislatures could have done this a month ago. Yeah. They are the ones to blame, if you want to blame people.
Well, that's the thing. We've seen a reluctance.
It's not the vice president, and it's not President Trump. It's not senators or House members. It is, there's not enough House Republicans to do it. There's not even the Senate Republicans we know are divided on this. But their state legislatures have the constitutional authority to say, you know what, our election was run contrary to law. We're going to put forward a different set of electors. None of those states did that. And they kept waiting, John. It was like first they wanted to the Supreme Court to do it for them. Right. And to tell them they had to do it. The Supreme Court didn't, and basically said, you already have this power. Why do we need to tell you to do it? And now they're looking for, I guess, Mike Pence to do it for them. And I still think, none of them have to wait. Pennsylvania doesn't have to wait for Mike Pence to tell them to do that, or the Congress to tell them to do that. It's like they're waiting for somebody to blame it on or put it on that, oh, we had to do it. So there's a lot of blame to go around. Most of it is at the state level. That's where the problems were.
Yeah, and it's also a very important reminder of how important these state-level elections are. They obviously don't get as much national media attention as the big, Georgia Senate runoff elections. But this is where the rubber meets the road. We've had Doug Mastriano from Pennsylvania. He would be an exception to the rule of one of the state senators in Pennsylvania who has gone out on a limb and really tried to really lead the charge in Pennsylvania. But you don't, again, as you mentioned, you don't hear that universal chorus from a lot of these states. There seems a lack of willingness to do so. We also saw a lack of willingness from the courts to really take this stuff up seriously. And, we heard President Trump lay out a lot of the allegations that we've heard a lot before: dead people voting, lack of signature verification, out-of-state voters in certain places. And the goal is obviously to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yes.
But a lot of people are still waiting for, the bombshell piece of information, the smoking gun that's going to, really convince everybody that this voter fraud was real, aside from the people who, you and I have talked about this stuff so much, a propensity, just so much here. But again, the people that change things, the courts and the state legislatures, they don't want to hear it.
No, they don't. The courts want to stay out of it. The state legislatures don't want to exercise their power. I mean, the thing is, we didn't have to rely on courts or the Supreme Court to tell a state legislature to do this. That's not how the rules are written. The state legislatures, clearly, they can decide based on whatever they want, that because they think that the election was held illegally in their state, that they're going to put forward a new slate of electors. They all have that power. And especially the states that we talk about the most: Arizona being challenged right now, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada. They all could do it. None of them did it. And now you've got some asking for Congress to tell them to do it, or the vice president to tell them to do it. Why are they waiting? Why not do it right now?
Time is running out.
It's like they want to shift the blame. But you said it right. We don't pay enough attention to state races, even people who are very involved in politics. This should be that wake-up call.
Yeah, and we heard Jim Jordan speak a little while ago yesterday on the House floor. He talked about the fact and quoted, I think he was the one that quoted Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said that January 6th is the day that matters. Yeah. And so Sean Spicer told us we can expect a very long process today. We're just in Arizona now. We have potentially 6 other states where they break off for 2 hours. So we're trying to be patient here. But again, this could be a very long process, and then nothing could change at the end of the day.
That's right. And even if the vice president were to say to those 3 to 6 states that are objected to, you need to reconvene and recertify, that we're talking about, a couple of days there, or they could even, I don't know if they could do it by Zoom, however they're set up. Again, I don't think we're talking about extending for weeks on, and of course we're running out of that kind of time.
Right.
This is a key day, and this will be a key time tonight when all this is done. Is that it? And the vice president just certifies it, or does he raise objections? It's not clear from the letter that he put out that he will or won't do that.
Yeah, well, Chuck Schumer speaking right now, not wearing a mask. We got a look at the Senate chamber here. We'll get back to Schumer in a second. But Jordan, thank you for your time. Always great to talk to you as well.